Y'all are not going to believe this. Sever the bond from Nets Republic. But you're not going to believe this. I am actually getting acne from watching these games. Like, look, I'm starting to get pimples. I look like a teenager. Like, I'm actually getting stress acne from watching these games at this point. Do you know that they just got out there? They made us wait until 10 p.m. And Lord help everyone in other time zones, overseas and everything. But it is the booty crack of dawn. Shout out weekend, Dawn FM. And we just watched the Brooklyn Nets lose to the Portland Trailblazers with no Damian Lillard and no CJ McCollum. We had healthy Kyrie Irving and healthy Kevin Durant. Granted, it was on a back-to-back, but this is Kevin Durant. And we still lost. Wasn't a home game. Didn't have those cursed New Jersey uniforms on. But we still lost. And it's mind-boggling to me. You telling me we couldn't stop Dennis Smith Jr.? KD couldn't protect the ball from Dennis Smith Jr. towards the end? Jokic was too much? I mean, obviously, the matchup of Claxton and him, we knew how that was going to go. But to be at this point, I feel like I've had enough. So what we're going to do this video is we are going to just go up and down my frustrations. Sever, you do that every video. Hush. We're just going to go up and down my frustrations. I'm going to try to keep this as PG as humanly possible. I'm not talking Paul George. Let's start with Steve Nash. My favorite. Everyone's favorite. The decision to start Duke Jr. again is beyond me. This man has been quoted as saying that he's still experimenting with the lineups and he understands that Kessler Edwards is playing out of his mind, but he wants to make sure that Mr. Duke Jr. gets his opportunity. You can't just yank him from the starting lineup after 2 games. Oh, is that so? Is this the same coach that had Karis LeVert coming off the bench? Really? Really? Is that so? We're in the business of giving chances, are we? Is that what we're doing? And when it's so just silly to the team. I mean, just silly to the team. You don't have Harden out there. So the grand idea of what we're going to do is a starting lineup of Kyrie Irving, Duke Jr. at shooting guard. Duke Jr. who can't shoot at shooting guard, though he hit a 3, so cool. Kevin Durant at 3. DeAndre Bembry at 4, and Claxton at 5. Now, that lineup alone honestly should have won us the game, but we're focused on Steve Nash right now. We're focused on Mr. Steve Nash. Let me tell you the continued folly of Mr. Stephen Colbert Nash. Allegedly. When Claxton got 3 fouls in 3 minutes! And I'm not talking about halfway through the third. I'm talking in the first 3 minutes of the game. Claxton racks up 3 fouls. Blake Griffin comes off the bench. And I love Blake Griffin. I've been quoted, if you follow me personally on Twitter, I have been quoted on multiple occasions saying that I am a Blake Griffin apologist. I love me some Blake, the Blankety Blake stuff. Love me some Blake Griffin. I am famous for that. But even tonight, how many wide open shots did that man miss? And it's just like, bro, like if it's the 3, like I get that, but like your whole thing is finishing and just blowing the layups Odyssey Stem style. It's just... It drives me crazy. So it's like while defensively he was playing incredible, They had to pull him because he was such a non-factor offensively, and when he tried to score, it was so detrimental to the team, it just didn't even make sense to have him out there. Now, what you could do, if I had Blake Griffin on my team, and I had him playing center, or power forward, or wherever you want to play that man, I would run a play for said player. For said first ballot Hall of Famer, I would run a couple plays for him. But Steve Nash is our coach, so no such luck. It's just the same pick and roll, the same occasional backdoor cut that a Bruce Brown would get. If you're wondering, no, he didn't play either. So the next tool that we tried was a combination of KD at 5 and James Johnson at 4. Now, if you're noticing something with the individuals who stepped up to try to take the place of Claxton, who got into early foul trouble, if you're noticing they all have something in common, yes, you are correct. They are all power forwards because the Nets had one job coming in. They had one job coming into this season to go and get a center to further fix the replacement that we need for Mr. Jarrett Allen. Didn't come true. We thought it was going to happen with the Spencer Dinwiddie flip. Never happened to get Montrezl. None of that. We just let Whiteside go. Like all these individuals that we swore was coming to us, we just let them go. Now, LaMarcus Aldridge is hurt, so he's not out there. But again, I'm naming power forwards. So the James Johnson thing didn't work very well. I mean, he had a cool dunk, but that was about it. He got about 3 minutes of a chance, and then he was benched immediately, even though, according to Mr. Steve Nash, his golden idea of giving people chances, James Johnson gets 3 minutes, and he's benched eternally for the rest of the game, but, cool. So then they put Day'Ron Sharpe out there. After some early foul trouble woes, that man played the rest of the game. Had some cool moments. Wasn't enough, but had some cool moments. No Paul Millsap minutes. None whatsoever. Towards the end of the game, it basically turned into the kids, Patty Mills and Kyrie. And that was cool. It's nice to see kids out there, but it's just if you're trying to win a game on a back-to-back, I would think all the money you spent on veterans, the ones that were available, you would put them out there to play. If Kyrie Irving is our point guard for the night and Patty Mills is just getting slapped around the court offensively and defensively, I would use the resources that I acquired. We let go of Shamet for Javon Carter, and he's supposed to be such a great defender, but then you don't play Javon Carter, and I get we're split down the middle on that guy. I totally get it. Some people really hate him and some people don't, but if we're having trouble keeping up with guards that I would name, but I've never heard of outside of Dennis Smith Jr. and Nurkic. I don't know who these people on the Trailblazers are, but if we're having trouble with these no-name individuals fresh from the G League, just starting 5 All-Star game, why would you not put defensive players in? Like, is Bruce Brown in a coma somewhere and I just don't know? Like, what are we doing, Mr. Nash? But the most glaring instance of Steve Nash just asleep at the wheel. I mean, this was a DUI performance if I've ever seen it. Man is just asleep at the wheel. The largest example of that ties into my Kevin Durant take I want to give. Without James Harden, the Nets are not only down an assumed 20 points, not only down a couple flashy passes, not only down post defense, naming a lot of things, and I haven't even talked about scoring yet, but really, 20 points counts as scoring, but you get what I mean. Most importantly, we are down a head coach. Because as you watch the game, you realize very quickly where we were before the James Harden trade. I forgot what it was like having Kyrie running your team. You see, in the past, we've had Spencer Dinwiddie out there with him. In the past, we had Cheese out there on occasion with him. We had Karis LeVert out there with him to do the ball handling, to hide the fact that all Kyrie wants to do is score. Which is fine, shout out to Kyrie, but when you're the point guard, agaga. Let's go back to the Celtic days. You got Marcus Smart out there with him because, again, someone needs to run the team while Kyrie's doing his Iverson impression. Go back to the Cleveland days. He's out there with LeBron. Someone has to run the team while Kyrie just scores. Tonight, there was no such luck. There was no such luck. Even when they had him out there with Patty Mills, we know what's good with Patty. No offense, but we know what's good with Peppermint Patty. So there was no point guard outside of Kyrie getting his stuff off. I mean, there are times where, and forgive me if I already said this, I'm starting to get my videos confused here, so if I'm repeating myself, I apologize, but there are times where you have our alleged bigs, and I have to say alleged big because the only center we had tonight was Claxton. So when you have your alleged bigs, which is just a collection of angry power forwards, but when you have your alleged bigs setting up the pick and roll to go to the rim because we don't run plays, and the only way tall people can get a bucket if their name is not Kevin Durant is if they set a pick and roll to the basket or do a backdoor cut. And when people were trying to do that, be it your Blake Griffins, be it your I'm forgetting folks, your Blake Griffins, your Day'Ron Sharps, your James Johnsons, or whoever was out there at the big position, right? They are cutting to the rim, but Kyrie is dribbling in a circle. He got the pick he wanted, but he needs to break someone's ankle, which is fine if you're a shooting guard. Nobody cares if your only job is to shoot, but when you are facilitating as well, Kyrie's just dribbling in a little circle. Now, when it's James Harden that's doing this, as much as I am irritated at this man for not scoring the ball, he is running the team because he is the literal coach, because Steve Nash ain't doing nothing. Steve Nash willingly watched Kyrie dribble in a circle on multiple plays. None of this. None of that. He just watched and said, well, that Kyrie's something else, ain't he? He's just something else, ain't he? You're down the coach. If James Harden isn't out there to literally run the team, you're down a coach. This is insane mental gymnastics that we do to try and protect Steve Nash. And from what? What did Steve Nash ever do to make us all just be so scared to criticize him? When Harden's not out there, we don't have a coach. When you talk about the value to a team, when you talk about someone who is the most valuable player, talk about someone that holds the team together, extreme value. You know, your Jimmy Butlers on the Heat. You've got your I guess Kawhi on the Clippers. You know what I mean? When you have your driving force of a game, a driving force of a team, excuse me. Your most valuable player on your team. It's more than scoring. When Harden's out there, granted, he does things that frustrates me, but there's at least hope that stupid stuff is not going to happen. He might dribble it off his foot every now and again, but he's got control of things. That is the difference between a James Harden and a Kevin Durant. And y'all are going to be mad at me. It is what it is. But with KD, when he's not on the court, we're not going to get his alleged 30 points. When Harden's not on the court, we don't have a coach. Plus his offensive output, plus the assists, plus the added post defense, plus the basketball IQ, plus the clutchness. Plus the immediate triple team if the man starts to dribble between. Lord have mercy if he dribbles between his legs. The triple team he will attract. Here comes the fix. For me, outside of playing the players that we need according to the matchup and not just type stuff, get a center. We have got to go get a center, and a real center, not another power forward. Go get a real center. If someone has to be given up, I don't want to name names here, and it might not be my place, but somebody wants Paul Millsap. Somebody wants Blake Griffin. And that hurts my heart to say, but somebody wants Blake Griffin. Like, we can do this, y'all. Like, this is our last chance. Go get a center. Have someone to protect the paint. We don't need more scoring. We'll be fine. Just get a center. Have someone to anchor things down on the defensive end and maybe can catch a lob or two from Harden. Start taking games seriously. Get everyone healthy and move on to the playoffs. But if the Nets continue to just assume we're going to small ball our way out of this, if Kevin Durant is content with just getting his 30 points and being cool with that, and I didn't want to say this, but I'm not going to say what I was about to say. I'm not going to say what I was about to say. I'll save that for another video. I've said enough. I'm not going to say what I was going to say, but this is ridiculous. This is really ridiculous. And I pray this is the turning point. We've been asking for it for the entire month of January so far, but I hope this is the turning point because this is sad. Something's got to change. Be it an attitude, be it roster decisions, but something's got to change. And I hope it comes soon because this is looking bad. And our next game is against the Bulls. Yikes.